Oh, hello there. I'm just trying to figure out how these two things go together, and I think I'm missing. Yeah, I'm missing something important. I don't know. Got me. But this has had me thinking. What is the opposite holiday of Easter? Now, I think we'd be tempted to say Christmas, but I think it's actually Halloween. Why? Because it seems like both holidays revolve around candy. And in fact, at Halloween, you get dressed up and you walk around and people give you candy. But at Easter, somebody in a costume comes to your house and delivers candy. So it's kind of the opposite, right? One's fall, one's spring. But there's another thing that these two holidays have in common. It's graveyards, right? Easter began in a graveyard. And Halloween, well, it loves graveyards. Now, if you've ever gotten legit scared on Halloween, or been really creeped out by a super creepy Easter bunny, which happens a lot, then you know something important. Fear can wreck our sense of happiness and peace. And this year is no different than that. Actually, it is pretty different. Because we're not going to be going to church on Easter, we're not going to be traveling to see relatives, we're not going to be spending time around our grandparents or great grandparents. Why? Because coronavirus. No matter what we're afraid of, though, there's really one thing that connects anything that we're afraid of, and that's fear of death. Now, this might not just mean physical death, it could mean death of relationships, death of hopes, death of dreams, death of reputations. But that fear can determine the direction of our lives when we let it. Now, whether it's physical death or the death of something we hope for, the fear of death comes down to losing something that we think we'll never get back. And when you think of it that way, it's easy to connect almost all of our fears back to the fear of death, because death seems final. But that's exactly where Easter comes in, right in the middle of our fear of death. Now, somebody whose life was changed by this fact is the Apostle Paul. And then Paul encountered Jesus after Easter in a way that was really powerful. And I'm a little nervous because I think there's wasps in my garage trying to build a nest, but I'm not afraid. See what I did there? Anyways, here's something that Paul wrote. And he wrote this. He said, "Death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your victory? O death, where is your sting?" Because before Easter, before Paul met Jesus, death was final. It got the last word. But when Jesus died and then rose again, he defeated death. When Jesus walked out of the tomb alive, it proved that even the power of death wasn't enough to overcome the power of Jesus. Which means that Easter is different, because at Easter, unlike Halloween, it proves that fear isn't final. Easter means something more. That someone or something is more powerful than our biggest fear. And that someone overcame death for us. Because he didn't need it for himself. He wanted us to be free from death and from the fear of death. Because fear is going to try to convince you that it gets the final word. That at the end of the day, fear wins. Fear will try to convince you that you're not good enough, that you'll never find a purpose, or your life isn't worth it. Fear will try to make you listen and obey, because that's what power is all about. But here's the truth. Fear only is powerful if it can convince you that it's final. Fear will try to make you believe that nothing is stronger than what you're afraid of. But when Jesus defeated death itself, he showed us that nothing we fear is bigger than him. Nothing we fear is stronger than him either. And that's a great thing to know, and that can help us. But there's better news than that. And it's something else Paul wrote. He said, "The Spirit of God who raised Jesus from the dead lives in you." The Spirit of God who raised Jesus from the dead lives in you. And that's what we call the Holy Spirit. Now, this belief is kind of like a muscle. It requires us to exercise it, to act like we believe it's true. So what is a step that you could take this Easter season that could prove that fear doesn't have power over you? Maybe it means forgiving somebody. Or maybe it means asking forgiveness from somebody. Maybe it means talking to your school counselor or seeing a doctor and having a conversation you've been putting off. Maybe it means telling your parents something that you've never told them. Maybe it means asking a small group leader for help with something you've been afraid to admit. Maybe it means picking a new friend group even. Or just asking the honest questions you have about Christianity but we're too afraid to ask. This Easter, no matter what your step is, you can begin facing your fear because of Jesus. Because of what we celebrate at Easter what Jesus did for us, fear doesn't get to determine the direction of our lives any longer. Now, this doesn't mean we get to do dumb stuff. Please, keep washing your hands, stay at home, all that stuff. But it does mean, Easter means that we don't have to worry about anything being more powerful than Jesus. This is the hope that the Christian faith was built on. This is the faith that changed Paul's life to be free from fear. It's what enables us to go on living with hope, even in the midst of a global pandemic, because our hope is in the one who faced death and won, and invites us to live in that victory too. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon.